Buffering, and we are live. And I have a stopwatch going just like last time.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Um, so the module 3 prompt was as this week's readings and lectures focus on various approaches to studying leadership, please discuss with your group which perspective or approach made the most sense to you. In considering the approaches and theories presented, think about your own beliefs about leadership and how leaders can motivate followers to achieve goals. One person from each group will submit the thing, blah, blah, blah. We already talked about that.
So I'll go off what I said last week because it happened to relate to this week about the relationships and how important they are to being a leader, and it happened to go much more in depth this week. So I thought that was great. In chapter 3, they were talking about readiness levels and the low ability and high willingness, and 1, 2, 3, 4. I think if a leader has a higher or a better relationship with the individual, they are more likely to motivate them in general. I know in my experience at Starbucks, I remember that Molly, God bless her wherever she is right now and what she's doing, but our experiences at Starbucks were pretty similar. I had a very poor relationship with my manager, and we tried to rebuild it so many times, and it never worked, which made me lack motivation more and more, and it's probably the reason I left. There are people who I had better relationships with there, but it wasn't enough to keep me going because they weren't in the leadership role. So that's where I lacked motivation, but I did have a high skill. Like I could probably make a latte blindfolded and with one arm. So,
So the willingness was definitely there. The competency was really there. But so it sounded like that was the willingness and the competency from the leader's perspective is what was missing on that point.
Probably.
Yeah. Versus the leader and stuff.
Okay. Well, from what I've read from the leadership approaches, the one I relate to more for, I guess, the phase in life I'm going through is the skills approach to leadership. Because I currently, about a year ago, I started my own business. I didn't realize like how many skills I actually lacked as far as like marketing, sales, all the skills you need to actually run a business. And with that comes like the human skills too, like building the relationships, like connecting with people, trying to, convert those relationships also into sales. So I think for me, that's the one thing I'm dealing with right now is the skills approach to leadership. And that really relates to my life a lot right now. Also too, it listed the problem solving capability skills. And I think that's a huge thing for business owners. Every day there's another problem I feel like I have to solve. Another thing comes up and I'm just like, oh my gosh, another one. So you have to I think that's one of the biggest things as far as like being a leader is being able to solve problems. Like even in your case, like with Starbucks, like it sounds like the leader wasn't able to like help you guys and like solve the issues maybe y'all were having. And I think the problem solving skill is huge, not just in like the higher parts of leadership, but also like the medium and the lower, because you have to have the lower guys, like the guys that work for me, if they can't solve the problems on hand, then I'm going to be the one doing everything. And I think we have to, as leaders, if you are in that leadership position, you have to teach them like, hey, this is how you solve this issue. And so that, I guess it gets better, for the business owner, the person in that leadership position. And it also makes the person in those positions in the lower positions feel a lot better if they know how to actually solve the issue too. So.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying, because what I think of leadership is a triangle, and leaders have to be at the top. But if your leaders don't come down and take care of people's primary needs of their job and empowering them, then your workers not only are less happy in their own role, because people don't like being just told what to do. Go do this,
right.
Whatever, come back to me when it's done. I don't care what you have to do to get there, just get it done. Nobody thrives in that environment. If you say, hey, this is the task, this is how I think you should handle it in general, do what you're going to do. If you have issues, you have like other thoughts or you have concerns, contact me and then we'll go from there. by empowering them to make their own decisions, you're making people happier to go do that work. But then additionally, you keep your triangle up here, because if every single problem ends up trickling back down to you, you end up being this, and your leader's at the bottom, and everybody's working, and you're working too hard, and then the skills that we provide as leaders end up fizzling out. The whole point of having leaders that are strong is to maintain like longevity and to make sure like that things are getting done in a timely manner and that there's good morale. But if your leader ends up becoming so overwhelmed because they're not dispersing but delegating correct tasks, then this ends up happening. This is not this is different. Like, if that makes any sense, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah. It's like the weight becomes all on your shoulders type of thing.
And then you can't support your team, build morale. You can't go back. You don't have time to go back and build your relationships with your employees. If you're over here doing all the busy work, that's the reason why you have employees. That's the reason why you have workers, is so that way they can take care of that, so you can take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference, I think, between that. So that being said, relational leadership is the one that I thought was super important, because like, just kind of like how you were saying, with the skills and everything, like, I've always seen it where like, if you create a good relationship with somebody, then like you could work through the rest. But if every single day is like a struggle when somebody comes into work, or every day that you're coming into work and your leader is not good, you end up kind of shutting down every other process, because either you're walking on eggshells or you're having other issues. So I think the relational leadership is really important as like a benchmark, so that way you can actually go and build up on the other things as well.
Yeah. I also felt like a lot of the leadership approaches, I feel like a lot of them actually tie into each other too. Like the situational leadership, like anybody can be a leader in a situation, like the example it gave, somebody pulled over on the side of the road, or, anybody can instantly be a leader. Even if I own a business, or, when I own a business, even though I'm the owner, if somebody else feels like, they can bring a lot to the table, then I should be, kind of open to that, and in that situation. But I do, even like the functional leadership can be tied into, a few of the others that I read. And I think like you mentioned, the relationship.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who's having a hard time. Normally, like, read it.
I know. I'm sitting here like, where's the word? So I make sure I'm saying it right. But yeah, I just really feel like they all kind of tie into each other, because when you're a leader, I feel like a lot of times you have to change up your leadership style. You can't always be a skilled based leader. You can't always be a relationship based leader or a functional based leader. And, dealing with people on a daily basis, everyone is different. Like, you may handle a skilled based leadership better, but the next person may deal with a relationship based leadership better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone, I think, we're all different. Like for me, I'm more about being like, I don't know, I guess it comes from like my military background. I was in the military. I'm more like, if somebody tells me what to do, I'm going to get it done right then and there, So I guess that's more of like a skilled, I don't know, type of thing. But not everybody's like that. So I think we're all different.
Yeah.
And some people like that whole relationship building first. So.
I was actually thinking about what you said about the ground up and for your business. It would be like working with someone who works for you, and maybe they look at something a little bit differently, a little bit more creatively, and you have to give them a shot.
Right.
And that ties into something that I was reading, because I'm a really creative person, and I definitely solve things way differently than a lot of people. And that's why, well, it's fair. It's why I have to focus a little bit more on the relationship with somebody, because they're going to think I'm, first of all, crazy when I'm trying to solve a problem. But once they know me, they're going to be like, she's going to get it done. She's going to get it done in her own way. but she'll get it done. And I really like how you compared it to your military background, because I've run into that at Starbucks a lot, because we have like veteran hiring and refugee hiring and things that. And I've definitely seen like very different leadership styles. And people have looked at me like I had 3 heads on my shoulder. And I'm like, no, try it. And they'll do it. And they'll be like, oh, fine, I guess. And I'm like, well, you did it, didn't you?
That's so funny. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's.
But like if someone approached you and your business was like, why don't we try this? And you thought maybe, I don't know, but like someone else did it. It depends on like how much you trust them, your relationship with them. You thought they were crazy. No, I'm kidding. They're probably not crazy, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I'm even, my fiance and I run the business together. We have 2 different types of leadership styles, completely different. He's a lot like you. He has like his own, he'll get it done, but in his own way type of thing. And I'm more like, no, let's get it done now when I say, and we're like, we've really, and not only that, we live together, we're together 24/7, so it's like we butt heads a lot because we have completely different leadership styles. And I think, that's kind of what makes it fun a little bit too, is like, we always get everything done, but some people like working with him better. Some people like working with me better, so.
True. I was thinking about, so I have a dad who's in the military, and then like my whole family's all military and everything. So I'm very familiar with that whole structure and all of that. I also work at Starbucks, and I'm actually aspiring to become a manager and everything.
Congrats.
I've had some really great experiences at Starbucks, and I've had some really bad experiences at Starbucks. Starbucks guy. And I've learned that you basically, every single experience, you have to kind of like pull from different leaderships and kind of just take a second and analyze what's going on. Did this store fail because of leadership style? Did this store fail because of this situation or that situation? And a lot of times you can kind of figure out where and everything went wrong. But some of these really warm, like lovey-dovey Starbucks relationships are very different from like the military one. But I still see how both of those different kinds of relationships have this weird like charismaticness about it, even though it looks totally opposite. But like there's that like that love, respect, and authority that comes with military, that like really like deep blood, you need something, I will break my back, we're gonna go do it. Call everybody up, get in the truck, so and so needs help, let's go. And like I've seen that. And I've also seen like the Starbucks, like, hey, how does this work? And everybody comes in for like a big group hug, and then I'm like, okay, we're making dinner, we're coming over, and like everybody felt that way too. And it's that like that charismatic, like we're in this as like a team, and like the similar like that similar respect ends up kind of translating through different channels and different avenues of what that actually looks like with the same end goal. And we are at 12:30 right now. But real quick, so at my current store, there is one supervisor. His name is Andrew. He is flamboyant. He is loud. He is a little reckless. Like I've seen him do things that are considered horseplay that like you can't do. It's not exactly professional, but his team like thrives, loves, and fears him. And then I am very to the book, but like goofy at times. You know what I mean? And I'm very silly and like lackadaisical, where he's like the extreme, and I'm like textbook with a hint of silly. And completely opposite in supervisors. But we work perfectly. Out of all the people in the team, we work absolutely perfect, because even though our execution is different, we grew up with that same Starbucks. Like we started Starbucks at the same time, and I'd say when training was still a little bit better. So we ended up getting those broad goals. Like we ended up getting that same Howard Schultz like vision. And so when that leadership transcended down to us, like we took with that same like statement, that same mission, and we just have very different ways of doing it. And it's weird to think of like how if you're doing leadership based on charisma, how it will transcend through different people.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
I thought it was gonna be hard to do it with just this few people and do the time, but like we had no issues with that at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop it. Was there anything anybody else wanted to throw in there before?
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Cool. Okay.